Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Good Orderly Direction, Practical Tools of the Bible. I'm your host, Dr. Donna Lee Snipes, and today we're discussing Numbers chapter 22, the stubborn ass, which I refer to as a recovery metaphor. So a little bit of introduction. The following story can represent many things, but today I want you to think of it as a tale of addiction and recovery. Addiction has touched every single one of our lives, some more directly than others. Therefore, I think it has a wide appeal. So in this story, Balak, the king, is the addiction. Balaam is the person who is trying to recover, but has not yet gotten there. The donkey may represent a friend or a loved one who is trying to stop Balaam from making a mistake. And God represents recovery, with Israel representing the community of people in recovery. Okay, so that's kind of a little introduction to all the players. Israel had defeated the Amorites and approached Moab near Jericho. Balak, king of the Moabites, sent messengers to find Balaam, a prophet, and ask him to curse the Israelites. God told Balaam, "Do not go with them. You must not put a curse on those people because they are blessed." The next morning, Balaam got up and said to Balak's officials, "Go back to your own country. The Lord has refused to let me go with you." All right, so that's good. Balaam is using good orderly direction. He's using prudence and saying, yeah, this is probably a really bad idea. Balak persisted and sent more distinguished messengers to Balaam, offering even greater rewards. Balak did not take no to mean no. Balaam answered them, "Even if Balak gave me all the silver and gold in this palace, I could not do anything great or small to go beyond the command of the Lord my God." All right, well, that's good. That's right on point. Then he goes on. Now, spend the night here so that I can find out what else the Lord will tell me. So this is like a little kid going back to his parents going, "I know you said no, but please, 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 please." Not so good. This is like a person who is in early recovery thinking, well, maybe I can get away with it, or maybe I can cut down, or maybe I can do this instead of that, and then everything will be fine. God had already told Balaam that he was not to go, but the new incentives made it harder for Balaam to resist. So Balaam was starting to have cravings. He knows he can't use, but he's starting to have cravings. He says the words he is supposed to say, but implores the men to stay in hopes that God will change his mind. Addictions can be very tempting. We may think the addictions can help us be much happier than we are, even though we know deep down inside, prudently, it's not in our best interest. We hope we can find a way to justify it. That night, God came to Balaam and said, "Since these men have come to summon you, go with them, but do only what I tell you." Like a good parent, God had already given Balaam counsel, but Balaam continued to press the issue. Please. In addiction, this is like a sponsee who has already gotten guidance from their sponsor who said, no, probably not a good idea to go hang out in a bar. But the sponsee says, "I won't drink. Please let me go. I think I can do it. I think I can handle it." Balaam evidently needed to learn the hard way. So he needed to hit bottom, and he wasn't there yet. God hoped that Balaam would come to his senses and respect what he had already been told. You don't relapse until you relapse. But there are a lot of behaviors that lead up to that relapse. You see these relapse warning signs, but you can stop anytime before you actually pick up again. So God hoped that Balaam would come to his senses, just like a sponsor hopes that their sponsee will come to their senses. We can't force people to do anything, but we can provide them guidance and we can pray for them. Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went to see Balak. God was very angry when he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. So God is angry. Recovery is not something that Balaam is focusing on or listening to. And that's really dangerous. And so in this case, the angel may represent the counsel of Balaam's friends. The other friends may have been summoned by the sponsor or by family members, and they're going to see him and say, "Hey, Balaam, this is a really bad idea. You need to turn the ass around and go back." And I mean that according to the donkey. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, it turned off the road into a field. Balaam beat it to get it back on the road. Donkeys are incredibly sensitive, so this may also represent Balaam's conscience. The donkey saw this and he said, "Maybe I should turn around." But Balaam was being a stubborn ass and beat the donkey and said, "No, we're going forward. We're going to do this because it's what I want to do." Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path through the vineyards with walls on both sides. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat the donkey again. Again, we see Balaam's advisors. If you want to think about the person in recovery, their advisors, their friends, their counselors, doing what they can to stop this person from making a mistake, to stop this person from doing something that will almost invariably lead to relapse. But as they say, the heart wants what the heart wants. And when the heart's making the decisions, prudence generally goes out the window. Then the angel of the Lord moved ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn. So the family, the friends, they're pulling out all the stops. They're saying, "We are going to do everything we can to block you from doing this because we think it's a bad idea." Intervention. Think about it that way. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam, and he was angry and beat it. So his conscience at this point is saying, "I give up. I've told you this is not the way to go. So I give up. Whatever. Do what you're going to do." The addiction, the addictive self is taking over. This is like the internal struggle when you realize you need to change, but you're angry about it at the same time. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, "What have I done to make you beat me these 3 times?" Balaam answered the donkey, "You made a fool of me. If only I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now." The donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you?" "Well, no," he said. Think again. How is this conversation, like the conversation between you and your conscience or you and your advisors, in active addiction, where you keep saying, "I can do this. Why are you getting in my way? Why are you keeping me from doing what I want to do and making me seem weak or foolish?" Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed down low and fell face down. Sometimes our friends and advisors see things we cannot when we're blinded by sin. It's important. So Balaam's eyes, recovery, if we're thinking of God as representing recovery, suddenly he had that epiphany. He had that aha moment that this is not what I need to be doing. And he saw the angel of the Lord. He finally saw the good intentions of all of his advisors, and he surrendered. The angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey? I have come here to oppose you because your path is reckless. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away, I would certainly have killed you by now, but I would have spared it." This, again, thinking about it in terms of a metaphor, your conscience and God may be saying, Why have you ignored me? You knew what you needed to do. Why are you ignoring it? I've come to protect you. Your friends could see it. Your sponsor could see it. Yet you were ugly to them because they got in your way. We've all been through this if we've worked with people who are in early recovery, or if we've been in early recovery. When we are blocked from accessing our addiction, we can get nasty. The donkey would not get back on the wide road, but continues through the vineyards. Balaam continued to protest and want to go his way, but the angel kept leading him to an increasingly narrow path until he finally had no other choices. In addiction, we sometimes call this raising the bottom, getting the person to the point that they have no other options but death or recovery, doing the next right thing. Matthew 7:13 and 14. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. So Balaam was going down this wide road, but he was on his way to destruction. And the donkey and the angel of God slowly narrowed his path, so he ultimately had to make a choice. But the small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned. I did not realize you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now, if you are displeased, I will go back. So Balaam's finally willing to listen and recognize that some others, his sponsor, his counselor, people who've gone through recovery before him, they might have something to offer. Not everything they have to offer is useful. And in recovery, we regularly say, take what's useful, leave the rest. And that's where good orderly direction comes in. Being prudent, taking this information in, being willing to hear and listen, and then deciding, not acting impulsively by rejecting it or accepting it, but then deciding what's useful and what do I need to leave. The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, go with the men, but speak only what I tell you. So Balaam went with Balak's officials. Balak greeted them, but was irritable that Balaam was resistant to coming and took so long. So the addiction, or the dealers, or whatever we're looking at here, the addiction is irritable that it took this person so long to come back over, to come back to the old way of being. In recovery, we say you have to change people, places, and things. Well, if Balaam was in recovery and he had changed these people, and then the old people start beckoning him to come back, they may get angry and feel rejected when he fails to automatically come back. And, there's a lot of reasons why that's probably not a smart thing to do, to go back doing the same things and expecting different results. But that's another video. The next morning, Balak took Balaam to the Bamoth Baal, up to Bamoth Baal, and from there he could see the outskirts of the Israelite camp. Balak told Balaam to build 7 altars and make offerings on each. Balaam did so, then consulted with God. I think I probably would have asked God first, but whatever. God told Balaam to pass on the message that he cannot curse those that God himself has not cursed. So the addiction, Balak, didn't want Balaam to see the benefits of the recovery community and wanted him to see them as a threat. So he said, come on over. I'm going to take you up here on this hillside, and you can see all of these Israelites, and they are, my gosh, they're a threat. They could overthrow us. There might be an insurgence. Oh my gosh. And he wanted Balaam to curse them. In early recovery, the people that you used with, the people who were in active addiction, the people who are unhealthy that were around you, probably don't want you to get better. They may say they want you to get better, but if you get better and start setting boundaries, then they're going to have to change if they want to be around you, and they don't want to change. So a lot of times, people who are still sick will spend a lot of time pointing out how wrong, how dangerous, how bad the recovery lifestyle is. Balaam recognizes that the Israelites are far too numerous for Balak to conquer, and they are united under God, which makes them even stronger. Balak gets angry that Balaam will not curse the people. Again, the addicted self gets angry at the sober self for not being willing to hate the recovery community. During my first internship, I worked with a man named Art who was just extraordinarily talented as a clinician. And he told me one time he would never do an individual with someone with an addiction. And I found that odd because he was so talented. And so I inquired why. And he said, because it's 2 against 1. I'm in there and I am having to counsel both the sober self and the addictive self. And it's overwhelming. So it's helpful to do group therapy where we have more voices that can work with one another. Balak took him to the outskirts of the Israelite camp where the people were less numerous and repeated the process. God told Balaam to pass on this message. God is not a human that will lie or change his mind. He does what he says. He has blessed these people and I cannot change it. God brought them out of Egypt. They have the strength of a wild ox. Think about the recovery community. Think about how much courage and strength it took them to change, how much they had to endure in order to move from addiction, from the pain of addiction, through the pain of recovery to the point where they were healthy and content. Then Balak said to Balaam, neither curse them nor bless them. Okay, so this is the point where the addicted self concedes. Fine, you don't have to reject the recovery community, but don't respect them either. They're feeding you a whole lot of hogwash. We see this in people, for example, who know nothing about the 12 steps, know nothing about, or very little about alcoholism, who swear that they're not alcoholics and talk about those people. And they generally have a lot of choice things, not nice choice things, to say about recovery communities. So this is where the addicted self is conceding, but it is making itself known that you can't respect them either because they're not good. Balaam answered, didn't I tell you I must do whatever the Lord says? So this is like Balaam saying, didn't I tell you I have to follow my program? Balak repeated the process for a 3rd time, hoping this time would be different. How often do you keep doing something that deep down you know will probably fail, but you keep doing it anyway, hoping for different results? In recovery, we call that insanity. When Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he did not resort to divination as at other times, but turned his face toward the wilderness. So Balaam had been a prophet, and my belief is he hadn't fully embraced God as the one and only being. And at this point, he recognizes God's power, and not just because he's heard about it, but he's experienced it. He's experienced the power of God. He's experienced the power of recovery. He turned his face towards the wilderness. The wilderness represents the unknown. Balaam is not an Israelite, but he's starting to want to explore what God offers. He's looking for a new solution. How does that sound like somebody in early recovery, starting to feel the relief of recovery and becoming more motivated to explore the unknown? Well, I see these people that I know getting sober and their life is starting to go better. What if I explore the unknown? What if I explore recovery? And so recovery becomes sort of the wilderness. When he starts to respect the recovery community, he's more able to see what it might offer. When Balaam looked out and saw Israel in camp, tribe by tribe, the Spirit of God came on him, and he spoke his message. The The prophecy of Balaam, son of Beor, the prophecy of one whose eyes see clearly, the prophecy of one who hears the words of God, who sees a vision from the Almighty, who falls prostrate and whose eyes are now opened. How beautiful are your tents, Jacob, your dwelling places, Israel. God brought them out of Egypt. They have the strength of a wild ox. They devour hostile nations and break their bones into pieces. With their arrows they pierce them. Balaam is pointing out that Egypt represents sadness and desperation. Through their journey, the Israelites have gained strength in spirit and unity. They're now able to see temptation more clearly and defend against it. So he's recognizing how all of the trials these people have endured have made them stronger and brought them closer together and helped them succeed, not only succeed, but flourish. Then Balak's anger burned against Balaam. He struck his hands together and said to him, I summoned you to curse my enemies, but you've blessed them now 3 times? Now leave at once and go home. I said I would reward you handsomely, but the Lord has kept you from being rewarded. Has he, though? Balak is a sinful man and can't appreciate the rewards and blessings of God. This story is similar to Jesus' temptation in the desert, Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. The difference is that Balaam, who was a sinner, began to see God. Jesus already knew God. Balaam answered Balak, Did I not tell the messengers you sent me? Even if Balak gave me all the silver and gold in his palace, I could not do anything of my own accord, good or bad, to go beyond the command of the Lord. And I must say only what the Lord says. So Balaam's saying, I have to save my soul, to save my life, I have to follow God. I have to follow good, orderly direction. Balaam's sober self is telling the addicted self that reality is what it is. Balaam can't change the blessings and strengthen the recovery community, and the strength the recovery community has been given from God. So it's important that Balaam recognizes that it's not him making himself better. It's the recovery community. It is good, orderly direction and God that are helping him succeed, that are helping him flourish and to stay safe in this rather tenuous situation. Then he spoke his message. The prophecy of Balaam, son of Beor, who now sees clearly and hears the words of God. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob. A scepter will rise out of Israel. He will crush the foreheads of Moab, the skulls of the people of Sheth. Israel will grow strong. A ruler will come out of Jacob and destroy the survivors of the city. So remember, Israel is that recovery community, and they are going to grow strong. Balaam can see how they are united and strong, and following God helps them have abundance. Balaam recognizes that the Israelites are numerous, united, and well organized. He also recognizes that Balak, the king, or in the metaphor, the addiction, is impulsive and motivated by greed and power. He cannot stand seeing something that he cannot have. At some point, the Israelites will probably make contact, and instead of respect and compassion for others, Balak's unmanageable desire will result in recklessness and his demise. So think about, how might this represent relapse in addiction? At some point, Balak, the addiction, and the Israelites, the recovery community, are going to come head to head again. And Balak may certainly act out, which can lead to relapse.